Well, I turned on the TV the other day for a change, and there was a Facebook ad on there, and which is a bit like an SEO company that advertises on the radio, and they were saying, we're good now with your data, please come back, which is a bit like if a fast food company was saying that now they put real chicken in their chicken nuggets. And when things like that happen, you wonder, what's actually going on here? Now, I've been working with the Facebook Graph API and Facebook Connect since about 2010. So I'm going to go into what Facebook actually does store about people, what it can be used for, and what Facebook have been doing since all the big fuss about Cambridge Analytica recently. Back in 2010, I was running an AFL Dream Team site, and I added Facebook Connect to it to get people's friends' data so that we could filter ladders based on who they knew that was on Facebook and playing on the site as well. Very powerful data, but here's the latest version of the screen that links that data to your account. If you notice here, now this is just my data that I've put up. This could be anybody, and you've got to be aware that as soon as you do this to any app, you're giving up this same sort of data. And you'll see that I've automatically got my name, I've got my email address, blacked out here, a bit of redaction because I don't want to reveal any identities. There's a Facebook ID, and you'll see here the friends who play on the website as well. And this is the important thing for people to know. When you do agree to an app or to a website that uses Facebook system, you're giving up the same data on your friends. And you'll see there, these are mine, but again, they could be anybody. I've got photos, I've got names, I also have email addresses and I have IDs. Now, that data there, it looks like this. Now, this is, any programmer here is going to recognise this, but the key parts are very important to note. Birthdays, names, I've got favourite teams, I've got inspirational people, I've got all sorts of information about that person, and that is me as a Facebook developer, not as Cambridge Analytica or a political party, just as an average developer. Now I can make some assumptions based on this, and this is where big data comes in, and you'll hear the term big data and you'll hear artificial intelligence. What you do then is you say, I know from this person, their interests, we've got Bob Brown and Paul Keating in there, inspirational people, I can guess they lean a bit left to centre. And that's exactly what big data and AI do. They say, based on these characteristics of a person, what can I confidently assume other characteristics of a person are? And that's what was being done by Cambridge Analytica and lots of other analytics companies around the world. They say, knowing this information, what else can I guess about that person? Because I know their age, I know where they live, I know the place their hometown, where they normally the hometown is where they're born. I know their political views and all sorts of stuff. You'll notice also here, it's not just a problem for big data. Something I'd point out, because I have the birthday and I have their hometown, as I said, probably where they were born, I can then do identity theft. So it's actually very dangerous data to be releasing into the wild, just as a general problem for people. And if I have their friends' data, like I showed before, I've probably got their family data, which means I've probably got their mother's maiden name and stuff. So if you've got people who've got this sort of information and they're a little bit nefarious, they can have some real fun with it. And if I move on, it's not just a problem with if you go to an app or you download something. It's also a problem if you used to go to Pages. Now this is especially a problem if you're on Pages on Facebook pre-timeline. This is the data that we have, say, from the New Game Plus page. And we actually use this to develop the New Game Plus TV website, which you should go and have a look to see how this is used. Now this data here, this pre-timeline, I could also get lists of comments and likes. And anybody who went onto our page and liked something or commented on it, each one has an ID, and I can tie that ID back to that person's data that I showed you previously. So suddenly I can build up a big map of a person if they've gone to a politically motivated page or religiously motivated page, and then I know a lot of information about them. So another thing you used to find happen a lot is very early on in the 2010s, you find a lot of programming forums full of people asking questions like, how do I get all the photos from this, effectively, how do I get all these hot chicks friends photos? That used to be a common question, in other words, that they used to ask. That's how on all the dating sites you suddenly found people's Facebook profile photos appear on them. And there's been a lot of examples of that. This is exactly what they were doing. They're downloading this sort of information. Now Facebook has made some changes. And credit to them, they have actually been trying. Over the last few years, they have restricted access to a lot of the things I showed you there. You used to get a lot more information than what you do now. And so when Mark Zuckerberg says we're trying to make changes, they have. Beginning in April, they said to all the developers, if you use certain features of Facebook's API, you need to now get your your application reapproved, manual approved. And that's if user friends, their gender and their age range were the key ones. Now manual approval included filling out very detailed form, including you have to upload a video of exactly what your app's doing. So you have to show Facebook your app in action to still have access to things like people's friends. They also introduced rate limiting, so people can't send too many requests per hour using an app. That just means that if they can do casual use, it's okay, but if they're farming the entire Facebook database, they can't do that anymore. And they also made some changes to their APIs. And some of the important ones here, the Events API now, you can't get the RSVP list from an event. Now, when I mentioned before you could get likes and comments on pages, you could also get events. Now imagine there was a protest event or something like that and people signed up to go to it and agreed. Now, yes, you can go get that data if you go to the page, but you have to go through pages and pages and pages of it. Here, you used to be able to get it in exactly the same format I showed you before, which is very, very good for storing a database and then very, very good for profiling people. Another big change they've made is they've changed so that now you can't get things like religious and political views. Again, very probably dangerous data for you to be putting out there in the wild. And also a lot of other things there now, like the books you read, the music you listen to, and the videos you watch. So Facebook have cut down with a lot of information there. So they've made an effort. But one of the things we have to remember here is this has happened now. Facebook's been around for a long time, and personally, I've been working with this data since 2010. That data's already out in the wild. So if you've been using Facebook, it's there. The other thing you have to know is Facebook's the only one you know about right now. Google does the same thing. YouTube has an API along the same lines, and they're all collecting that data. Now, we all know the data gets collected. We all know the data gets sold, but I don't think a lot of people realize exactly how easy it is for an average person to get this data. It's not the CIA, it's not the NSA or anything. This is what somebody like myself, who's a competent programmer, can do with Facebook's data.